Hey, it's Austin Solomon with the Solomon Group Coldwell Banker. Thanks for listening into this week's episode of The Real, the Wausau Real Estate Show. Because that first call that you called me on, like you wanted to make sure that I knew that you were a DC Everest grad. Like, hey man, it's Ryan, former DC Everest grad,
That's right.
former DC Everest football player,
Track guy.
track athlete. Were you a track athlete too?
Track was my main sport.
Oh wow, okay,
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. A lot of pride.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pride. There really is.
Were you good?
Yeah.
Right.
I was good at whatever I wanted to do. I always put 100% into it.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yep.
That's just the way I was, and I still am.
Yep.
But there was a lot of pride growing up in that area.
Yeah.
And when you went to Everest, for me, at least in my time, I thought that was a big deal. And I thought it was cool.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
You expressed it.
I definitely did.
You did.
Probably a little too much.
You did. I was like, man, this guy really enjoyed high school.
Yeah. I did enjoy high school though. I really did. And that's the thing that I love about Wausau and that area is, to me, it was very, very fun growing up because, well, one, there's a lot of high schools for a small town, right? For the population, there's a lot of high schools, which means a lot of families are moving there. There's a lot of kids there. And eventually I got out of just the Everest bubble and I started making friends with people from the other high schools as well.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, I loved that.
Yeah.
When
you, like, that moment comes where it's like, oh, like, Wausau West is right there. Like, all these, or Wausau East is right there. Like, you kind of live in your bubble, but then as you get out of it, you're like, wow, this is like a really cool place. Like, there's so much more here than I didn't even think about.
And I still stay in touch with all of those people.
Yeah.
Obviously, as we get older, you lose touch with a lot of people along the way, especially from those days. But, there's people that still live in the Wausau area that when I go back, I will take time to reach out to and say, hey, I'm in town if you're available.
Yeah.
Love to see you, and when we get together, it's like years haven't passed.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's been a long time since my time there, but I really do feel like there was a good connection growing up with the people and the friendships that I made then.
Right.
So, for me, I graduated. Obviously, there's an age difference here, right? So my time in Wausau is a little bit different from yours, but kind of to give it a history, I guess, of I grew up there, graduated there, and then I went to college in Minnesota, in Minneapolis at the University of Minnesota. And a year after college, my sister graduated, also from Everest.
Very good, very
right?
good.
And my parents moved. They moved out of Wausau. And so I no longer had family ties there anymore. Right? So when you don't have family ties, you're not going back there as much. You're not going back for like Christmas and holidays and whatnot. And so you kind of lose track of your hometown roots.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're in a bigger city and you're in college and you're just busy. Before you know it, over a decade passes, right? And aren't really going back, aren't really connected to the community anymore. Then several years ago, unfortunately, someone who I graduated with, high school and also went to college with, had suddenly passed away. A lot of people were going back to Wausau for a golf tournament, kind of a tribute in his name. And he was a good buddy of mine, so I wanted to go back. And I was sponsoring a hole and ran into a lot of people that I graduated with or were around the same years that I was, there in high school growing up, and really reconnected with a lot of the different people there. And it kind of brought me back to that feeling of a sense of community and relationships with people that I still. It's not like we talk on a regular, but on social media, that's one of the good things about social media is you do still stay connected in a way that you see from a distance what people are doing, right, in their lives. And it made me really kind of remember a lot of those old relationships and times. And I thought to myself, you know what, I want to reconnect to Wausau because I really enjoyed my time growing up in Wausau.
Yeah.
And Ironically, I actually ran into my old flag football coach, who was also the father of a high school buddy of mine that also went to college with me as well. And they saw that I was doing mortgages.
Yeah.
And they said, you know what? If you're trying to get reconnected to this market, and if you want to work with some realtors, there's this up and coming agent that I know that works in my office that I've been kind of helping out a little bit. You should reach out to him. And it was you.
Yep.
Right? And this is several years ago, and you had just really started to come up in the real estate market, especially in Wausau.
Yep.
And so I said, okay, I'll reach out to him. And you're a kid, right? I mean, you were pretty young still at the time.
It wasn't that long ago. It was like 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, okay,
Maybe 4. 2019? I think 2018.
You were probably like 20 years old though.
No, I'm 24 now, so that I would have been 20. Yeah, I probably would have been 20. Yeah, you're right. That's funny.
That's a kid. That's young.
Yeah.
And it can be tough in real estate sometimes for people to take you seriously at that age.
Yeah,
right?
It's all in your head though.
It is, but you're really good at what you do, and so that would always supersede the age thing.
Yep.
Right. And so I remember I reached out to you, and who is this guy that lives in the Twin Cities and is trying to talk to me, an agent here in Wausau? And I know that you have some laughs about that conversation.
Oh yeah, we were that's so funny because I was like, at the end of that call, I'm like, all right, we got a DC Everest grad that is the lender in the cities that wants to connect. And I did feel like, oh wow, like I mean, you're very well spoken, so I'm like, this guy's serious. I could tell he's good at what he does. I'm like, I'd definitely be down to meet him and see what he has to say. Yeah.
Yeah. And
then we met for lunch, and I remember that. I remember one of the things you had said is, "Hey, I can close the loan pretty quick." That's one of the things that you said, and I remembered that, and then I put that to the test. Remember one day I called you about 3 p.m. I called you up. I said, Ryan, I got a guy. You're on speakerphone right now. And this is the only time that I think I've ever heard you, like, typically you're very polished, right? Well, you are polished. This is the only time, and I really appreciate it too, because I was putting you under the spot. I'm like, Ryan, you're on speakerphone. I got a guy. He needs to get into a house in 21 days. Like, he needs to be in this house in 21 days. Like, can you do it? And you're like, well, I think I can make this happen, And I was like, holy smokes. I'm like, I've never seen a loan like close in 21 days. But you're like, yeah, let me talk to him. And so we talked over the phone. You were able to get him, approved pretty quick. Mm-hmm. We got the offer submitted. We closed in 21 days. And so he was super pumped.
We actually got clear to close before that.
Yeah, you remember that. I was like, wow. I was like, it just blew my mind. And so I was like, that was kind of, I was super impressed. And that was when I was like, man, this guy's good. Ryan, he knows his stuff.
Oh.
Let's go.
I remember that though. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
But it's pretty funny because it was the only time, like, you weren't overconfident, which I appreciated. You were kind of like, I was like, because I knew I put you under the spot. I'm like, hey, this guy needs to be in a house, like, 21 days. He was going with this different lender, and that person definitely said no. Like, we need 45. Yeah. I'm like,
because
Ryan.
I hadn't looked at anything yet.
You didn't know what you were walking into. I don't know
anything about the buyer and the situation.
Yeah, I just put you under the spot. Yeah. But you're like, hey man, I think I can do it, but let me dig into this, and you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was great.
So what do you appreciate about Wausau? Because my story is that I graduated high school and I left, and now I've come back. You've stayed. What keeps you there? I
think the interesting thing about Wausau is that it's a good community. The people there really kind of, I think, is like kind of what keeps me there. It's a small community, but there's a lot of people. I mean, it's 100 plus thousand greater Wausau area, right? But it's that's a lot of people, but everyone kind of still knows everyone. It's weird. Like, for me as being an agent, a lot of people know who I am now that people love a good story, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel like my name has gotten out there naturally just through that. And so I kind of like that, and it helps our business a lot. But more than that, I think it's a great area. There's a lot of good people that are there. There's a good mix throughout the year of things to do. I know you love the winter seasons. You love
Oh, yeah.
Granite Peak. And
I grew up
getting
skiing there. It was Rib Mountain
Yeah.
when I was there. I don't know when it actually changed ownership and changed name, but now it's Granite Peak. But
Yeah.
I went there this year. I go
Yeah.
every year now.
A lot of people love that. I always think I'm going to get into it. Hasn't happened yet, but in the summer you got Lake Wausau. You got a bunch of rivers and lakes that you can spend time on, which I absolutely love. So there's a lot of things to do, like all seasons, and each season is really nice too. I mean, even Rib Mountain in the fall is just beautiful.
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot to do, throughout the seasons, and although it's a smaller town, like it's not like the cities here, but you still have some of those nicer restaurants that you probably wouldn't see typically in a smaller town like that you'd more see in the bigger cities area.
Right.
So
there's a couple of those there that I like.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love going to Tyne and Cellar.
Yep.
Lemongrass.
Yep.
That was really
Carmelo's, we had some really good food there.
good. See, that's old school for me.
That's old school but good.
Yeah. That was there when I was young.
Oh yeah.
I remember, like, as a kid, places like Wausau Mine Company or favorite ice cream spot, definitely still there, Bricks.
Let's go.
I know.
Come
It's
on.
so good. Nothing better than, like, on a hot summer day, standing in line to get some Bricks soft serve.
I live pretty close to Bricks, and so I definitely like walk down there. It's my justification.
Yes.
Get the walk.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. No, there's back in the day there was Gus Smacker. I was always into playing that with my buddies, the 3-on-3 basketball tournament. Yep. And whenever the East Bay Super Sale was happening, you always had to hit that up.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Still wearing those today.
Yeah. Right. No, it was great, and I enjoyed. Like I said, I enjoyed my time, and I still enjoy going back to this day.
Yeah. No, well, I'm glad that anytime you come into town, you're always like, hey, let's do something, let's get together, let's reconnect, hang out, do something, and that means a lot. Yeah.
Right on. Hashtag.
Let's go.
Hopefully that was helpful. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out, and we will see you at the next episode.